Millennium Products Cell Shield, aka Zorb, a shortened version of to absorb, not the Zorb ball, which, by the way, would be a really bad thing to call it anything like, because then you're bordering on search engine optimization theft, riding someone else's coattails, getting sued for somebody should. But anyway, specific absorption rate, fee related expired patent number 5668070. The citation of a 1996 patent that expired in 2016 because of not paying up their dues to re-up a 20-year patent. The patent was originally from Sung Yong Hong and Cheng Ho Ra from China. A ceramic composition for absorbing electromagnetic waves, by the way, it contains grammar errors, generated from electrical devices such as cellular phones, computers, cordless telephones, and beepers. You remember beepers, right? This is 1990s, right? Get that right. Anyway, a method for manufacturing this material. Now, in it, it gives a vague reference to specific or not specific ratios for materials. Now, the element labels here, I don't know all of them, so I'm just going to quote the ones I know. And the largest one is iron, an oxide of iron. Iron, 2 atoms, and oxygen, 3 atoms. So, iron trioxide, oxidate, 35 to 65% is in this mixture. Does this sound vague? No, there's a specific reason for this. 1 to 5% aluminum oxide of some sort. Elemental zinc at 0.5% to 1.5%, 0.5% to 1.0% chrome. I'm assuming I've got that right. Copper at 3 to 10%. And then I think this might be manganese or another element. I don't know which, but it's another element, and it's 3 to 8%. And then 1 to 4% another element. This is made as a dry mixture, and then it's processed a specific way. It could be any number of several ways, because there are variations of this patent being mentioned in other people's work, because this is not specific enough to be a unique patent for making a ceramic out of all of these elements. A ceramic isn't necessarily what you think it is. Anyway, this dry mixture is then mixed with into a total volume at 30 to 40% water, 1.5 to 2% plasticizer, and then something referred to as 1.5 to 2% dispersing. Now, I'm not sure what that's referring to, but you can try to add up these numbers and you see there's a fairly large space left over. Let's say 40%, 44%, so the rest of it would be 36% would be the dry mixture of these elements to make it into something. Now, these other elements may or may not be put into a crucible and melted or fused together as a mixture to form the ceramic, and then shattered using ultra-low temperatures like liquid nitrogen, or maybe just grinding them up. And there may be a ratio or a gradient formed by making the mixture go from, let's say, this part of your mixing table to this with the iron oxide type material at 35 to 65% ratio compared to the others. It might be like that. A very simple way to get a very long, gradual curve for the iron to aluminum ratio, or more accurately, the iron to copper and I think it's manganese or magnesium. You get the idea. The idea here is to create a large number of individual mixes, some method, it describes them, and mix them together, and then fuse them in a crucible at a high temperature in, let's say, a kiln. And then you take that dry material, or the dry stick, grind it up to where you get individual. Well, I'm grasping here because I'm looking at the actual patent that's being cited by Zorb and Millennium Products and Cell Shield, cellular shield, or your cells. The idea here is to make a bunch of individual, I would call them alloys, but they're actually ceramic mixtures, that will deaden the effects of various frequencies by being different ratios that would match each frequency grouping. This is a simple assumption. Whether this actually does this or not was actually tested by you can look up the Zorb Science EMF and SAR test PDF file, which cites some source from a long time ago. Now, the point of saying this is patented, we patented this. No, you didn't. You didn't patent that. You didn't build that road. They didn't patent anything. They're using an expired patent. That's like you saying, we're using patented technology. It's a Tesla coil. The patent's already worn out. It's a dead patent. This was a 20-year patent and expired on time. No new fees were added in to reaffirm the patent, to re-up, to pay your damn bill. And it discussed a fairly vague thing that doesn't mean that it was proven. You don't have to prove something works to get it patented. Most patent offices no longer care. As long as it's unique enough, you're good. And keeping it vague like this, the major thing about this was a process and procedure and methodology for producing something. Many things are patented in a way that patents were never supposed to be used for, by saying this is a process for doing something rather than an object, so that you can have a very vague way of controlling things. Because maybe, just maybe, it's not the mixture, it's not the materials, it's the methodology. The methodology could then go under another patent for the idea of it, for making a new way of forming ceramics from various pure elements and maybe compounds like oxides. And then you could abandon the original patent because you don't need it anymore, and you maintain your patent for making your mixing process. And it involves, again, water after the powder mixture has been created, and a plasticizer so that you can make it into a solid or an applicable material or a paint. And it's used for some effect. Okay, now that we've gotten there, let's get to a couple of points here. If you want to believe something that has been disproven repeatedly by science itself, because you can look up 1 or 2 paid science papers, shills, that tell you what you want to hear, I can't fix that. If you want to believe some actress that used to be in one of the Terminator movies, if you want to believe that this actress isn't just trying to make a living by doing a celebrity endorsement, that's fine. I don't even know the person's name. Never heard of her later on. I will include links below because the person doing the endorsement isn't relevant. The assertion is it's a patented technology. It's not patented anymore. Why bring up a patent? Because it makes it sound much more impressive. It makes it sound like it's worthy of being patented, and it's a very important thing. It's sort of like saying this is forbidden technology or it's outlawed or banned in Boston. It adds to the mystique of it. So the video you're watching is only doing one thing. It's not patented. The patent expired. Anybody can make this. You don't have to pay them any money. You don't have to give them $33 a pill. By the way, what they sell is a pill-shaped thing you can put on a necklace or wristwatch kind of thing. You can just look up any example of that other patent, the patent number, being applied for any other procedure, and find much more restricted versions of it. But basically the idea is that you mix, if you're not aware of it, the iron and aluminum here, you basically make various mixtures of thermite, and instead of burning it, because one acts as an oxide and the other acts as fuel, you bring it to a high temperature in a sealed environment, along with these other trace materials to keep it from bursting into flames, and just form it into a ceramic and grind it up at different ratios, and use these ratios to absorb certain radio frequencies. That's it. That's all it is. You can do that by deliberately mixing them gradually to where it forms little prills of the mix, maybe even using water to get it clumped together, to get very non-specific, broad mix ratios. You can look up that procedure. I don't know the patent for it because it's so old, but it's a methodology for testing batches of 2 or more ingredients to mix them in different ratios and figure out which one tastes better. Yeah, it's a yield secret recipe reverse engineering method that's so old I don't even know if there is a patent for it, from a long time ago. It was the methodology used by candy makers and medicine makers to compete with each other by breaking each other's patent medicine, which wasn't really patented, by finding out their trade secrets by mixing ratios once they figured out the main ingredients to create successive approximations of their competitor's product. And when they found the one that had about the same effect, then they could figure out, okay, what are the trace materials? By using a subtraction method, you could eventually figure out, reverse engineer someone else's product. This is also one of the methods that's used effectively in testing medications or any other material to figure out what elements are in it and what the ratios are. You don't know how they mix them, but you know what they are. It's the same methodology. So if you just use this, but you don't use it to reverse engineer it, you just deliberately make a broad spectrum of, gradient, mixed ratios. You can get away with making probably the same thing. They're probably using the same thing. It's not like they cite any patents or anything in the frickin' paperwork. Anyway, the translated and non-translated versions will be available below. How do you keep yourself from being exposed to radio signals from your cell phone? Well, let's say this is my cell phone because honestly I don't have one. Oh, by the way, just don't own anything that makes radio signals. If you're watching this, you're probably using a computer that puts off noise, radio frequency noise. I'm going to show you the deep, dark secret of how to prevent yourself from being exposed to radio signals from your, specifically they tested an iPhone. You can make a radio frequency nullifier choke out of the cable you're using. You can also just put a ferrite bead on it. And you will hear people tell you, no, that won't protect you from radio signals because it's too cheap and I want you to buy my snake oil. If you want to keep dirty electricity out of your house wiring system, you can just put a series of radio frequency chokes in the outlets. They're EMF, RF filters. They're very easy to get. It just makes it to where it passes only low frequency signals like you would have in a power line. And it expends the energy from the relatively tiny amount of radio frequency noise as heat, but it's not really going to heat up anything. Unless you're right next to a radio transmitter, you're not going to have that happen. And I mean a big one, like a couple of thousand watts. You can put one at the breaker box and one in each outlet. You can even just buy the parts and put them into the outlet socket. I'd recommend getting someone who knows what they're doing to do that. You can also just buy the outlets with the radio frequency filters on them. They rarely, if ever, go bad. Just make sure they're overrated to like 1,000 volts to tolerate it, in case you get a voltage spike. But your dirty electricity problems are solved with 3 cents worth of parts, a couple of capacitors. That's about it. A capacitor and an inductor if you want to get fancy. And what you will see on websites is, no, that's just what they want you to do, because that makes it worse, because somehow killing off a radio signal noise source, which you can test, has to be contrary to what they want, which is for you to be told, you can't fix it, be an activist. If they're trying to make you an activist, they tell you can't solve anything except by attacking your source. If they're trying to sell you something, they tell you how to fix it by clearing up the noise, but they somehow tell you you can't do it unless you use their special snake oil. I've tried to help people who are conspiracy theorists before. They are resistant to solving a problem in many cases. I grew up with a person who actually had this kind of emotional and mental problem where they wanted to complain continually that they were being put upon so they could have a victim complex and use victim cred, back before people would call it that. But solving the problem, I would get horribly yelled at for it because I was taking away their ability to have a bargaining chip in life. Do you want a bargaining chip on your shoulder for life? Or do you want to solve the problem or find out it's not real? That last option is terrifying to people. You can filter out the noise in the world. You can turn off all the electronics. You can put it away. But if you do that, you may find out that that isn't causing any of your problems and it's some other damn thing. And you can make it a fantasy world thing or realize that maybe it's just you. Or maybe it's just you dealing with the world around you and just not being able to handle it very well. We all get stressed. We all get put upon in life. It's normal. It's sad. But are you avoiding finding the answer because you know intrinsically that you're being lied to about what it is? Is it worth throwing away $33 a pop for these little fake pills you put around your neck instead of swallowing them? Maybe they're too bitter. The patent wore out. They're selling something without a patent to it. Part of what they say is a lie. Thanks for watching. Good day. Good luck with that. solve your problems cheaply, and don't pay these bastards.